This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is December 11th, 2025. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about how the Magic win over Miami again, which you love to see that. We're talking about the Magic in the NBA Cup semifinal, the first in franchise history, in the long, illustrious history of the NBA Cup. The Magic have never made the semifinal. So very excited about that. Against the New York Knicks. And most importantly, we got to talk with the one and only Jeff Turner. And so very excited to get to catch up with him, just past the quarter mark of the season, get his thoughts. We had a great conversation. But yeah, a lot of good stuff coming up in this episode, and glad to share it with you all.
Before we get to any of that, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Austin Vote, Drew Gooden, Fuchsia, Magic Matt, and Tiago Mello. Who are these people, Kevin? These are some of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. These folks, for some reason, like what we do so much, they went to patreon.com/the Sixth Man Show and joined whatever tier worked best for them. So we give a shout out to a handful of our elite Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons each and every episode. And we give a special shout out to brand new patrons whenever we have them. So if you want a special shout out just for you, head on over to patreon.com/the Sixth Man Show. Pick whatever tier works best for you. And that's really the best way to help financially support everything that we do here. Something that we don't ask for maybe enough. We don't ask as often as we should. If you are a fan of what we do, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you're on YouTube, go ahead, pause the video right now. Go ahead and pause, like, subscribe, leave a comment. That helps out the algorithm a ton as well. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're on Spotify, go ahead and hit pause really quickly. If you're driving, make sure you pull over first and leave us a rating and a review. I don't think you can leave a review on Spotify. Maybe you can these days. I'm not really sure. But we're going to, as the Sixth Man Show, we're going to stop for 6 seconds here. So you can go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review, all that kind of stuff. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, perfect. So thank you all for doing that. Really appreciate that. We do have a great episode planned for you all today. But as we are still celebrating last night's quarterfinal win over the Miami Heat. I got to get my fractions correct here. What a freaking game that was. The first 4 or 5 minutes were terrible. Seemed like we were in for a very painful, miserable night. I was in the building. I brought my 7-year-old, my oldest, and I was like, this is going to be the night that the full-fledged love for the Orlando Magic starts. And as the Magic are down 15-0 and 18-2, I'm like, this is not going at all how I had hoped. We were starting to get a lot of let's go Heat chants in the building. And then the Magic, not only do they come all the way back, but they kind of run away with it at the end on their way to punching their ticket to Vegas in the semifinal. What a great game this was, Kevin.
Yeah, like you said, the beginning had me questioning everything. Goodness gracious. Miami did whatever they wanted in the first, 4, 5, 6 minutes, whatever it was. Very painful. Felt like the Magic had nothing going. And then, lo and behold, guess what turned the game around? It was the defense. The defense kicked in and never looked back. Shout out to the guys. They could have very easily gotten down in the dumps like some, Magic fans did. But they stuck with it, stuck to, their principles and stuck to who they were. And like you said, talk about a turnaround. The Magic went down 15-0 and then, won the game by, I already forgot the math, 9 or something like that. So, they kicked Miami's tail the last, 40 minutes of this game pretty much. And so give them credit for that. They took care of business and did it all in the first game without Franz too. Like the first full game, obviously, Sunday we spent most of the game without him, but having the starting unit be different and stuff. And we can talk about that, obviously, how that starting unit did, but to overcome that against a good team, and Miami got Tyler Hero back as well. You wouldn't know it because Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs and them, shut him down in the last 3 quarters, but Tyler Hero was back. And so, for the Magic to come out and do that, I was just really, really impressed. And then that sets up another opportunity to impress on Saturday, national stage, everybody watching. And I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I'm really, really excited for how this week is shaped up.
Really quickly, because this is breaking official news as we're recording this at 8:49 Wednesday night. People have been asking about a watch party for Saturday, and we've been kind of trying to scramble as quickly as we can to find a venue. But now I just got the go-ahead to announce that this Saturday, we're going to be hosting a watch party at Stadium Club at the Crebe Royale Orlando Resort. So if you've been there before, it's a great spot. If you haven't been there before, it's a fantastic spot. The food is great. The vibes are great. Really no better place to host a watch party. So the game is going to start at 5:30. Would recommend like reserving a table. We'll put all the links and stuff like that in the description for the podcast episode and on YouTube. But yeah, 5:30 Stadium Club on Saturday. Huge win. Come out. First of all, big thanks to Stadium Club for helping us like put this together so quickly. So make sure that you come out, get some food, get some drinks, support the good folks at Stadium Club. Should be a great night. So appreciate them for moving so quickly to get all of that set up. So, but yeah, Tyler Hero definitely got it going. I think they started this game like 7 for 7. The Miami Heat did. He was knocking down shots. Norm Powell. I'm so sick and tired of playing Norm Powell in these games, by the way, because that dude is so good. Had a couple of second half air balls, which we really appreciated. But it just feels like every time that dude pulls up, no matter if it's wide open, contested, whatever, you kind of feel like it's going in. And you know who else it felt like that was going for this night? Desmond freaking Bane, which I think we can officially say, like we've said this, I think 3 or 4 times so far this season. This was Desmond Bane's best game in a Magic uniform, given the stakes. And do you remember like years ago, I want to say it might have been in the playoffs where Paul Pierce was playing for the Wizards and like hit a game-winning shot, and in his post game, he was like, "This is why they brought me here."
Yeah.
This was the Desmond Bane game of this is why they brought me here.
That's
6 of 9 from deep. Genuinely felt like every time he pulled up in this game, it was going in. 37 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal. 14 of 24 from the floor, 3 of 3 as well at the free throw line, and just made big shot after big shot, big play after big play in this game. And I genuinely forgot what it was like to see a guy just be that in the zone and dialed from deep. I mean, KCP had a game, I think, last year where he made like 7 threes, but it was after like a whole season of him like playing like trash. And I was like, okay, I think it was like April 1st of last year. Now you're going to have this game.
Yeah.
But Desmond Bane in his 25th game for the Magic in the regular season just went nuclear on the Miami Heat en route to, again, punching their ticket to the NBA Cup semifinal.
Yeah, it was really, really special. And the Magic needed it, right? We talked about it honestly, we had 2 episodes at the beginning of the week, both Monday and Tuesday's episodes that, we wanted to see Paolo step up with the Franz absence, but we knew it was going to be, I don't want to say unlikely, but given the fact that he's just now coming back from injury, we didn't expect Paolo to step up, fully as we, expect him to do as he gets more, back into game shape and stuff. But who we called, up was Desmond. Like, we're like, Desmond, this is why we brought you here. Let's see you step up. And wow, did he ever. And don't forget, like, he dropped 37 in the game. He had 2 in the first quarter. So he had 35 in the last 3 quarters. The dude just couldn't miss. And I think this was his first game with 4 or more threes on the season as well. And so all of that combined, and then like you said, the stakes, the national stage, they were the only game on TV at that time. It's a big deal. And again, we needed every single one of those. And it got to the point, which, like you said, it's been so long since we've experienced something like that. But once he got going, it was just like, you can't leave him. But then what I loved about that was when Miami did try to close him down, he didn't just, move on to something else. He would just get to the rim, like that, which again, we've talked about this a lot before, especially when he had those 2 37-point games earlier in the season, that his game offensively is much more well-rounded than at least I personally was fully aware of. And I think a lot of Magic fans too, that he's got quite the the things at his disposal in his arsenal are quite deep. It's not just the 3-ball. And so,
Kevin, let me just stop you from
Yeah.
sounding old. They call that getting deep in your bag.
in your bag,
He
I
has
know,
a bag.
I know, but I have to use Arsenal whenever I can. That's called being an Arsenal fan. So I had to throw that in there. But yes,
COYG.
yeah, come on, you Gunners. But yes, that was really, really impressive, and it didn't matter what Miami did; they couldn't stop him. They literally couldn't stop him. Now they also left him just wide open many, many times, and that's credit to Miami's strange defense. But yeah, anyway, really, really happy for Desmond. I know he was fired up about that result, and definitely excited to see him in Vegas on Saturday.
There's been like a continued evolution of this fan base and like the home court advantage over the course of the last couple of years. I think for me personally, where it really felt like we were seeing a shift was the Black Friday game a couple of years ago, the first year of the NBA Cup against Boston, where the fan base felt the importance of that game and the way the Magic were like rolling at that point of the season. And every time that Boston crowd got going, Magic fans just jumped all over it and just shut it down. And to the Magic's credit, their play like helped that happen. Like anytime Boston crowd would start to get a little bit, riled up, the Magic would go on a run or they would make some plays. And we've even seen it, last year, in the playoffs. We've seen it at different times this year already, like Boston being in town, the Knicks being in town, that kind of stuff. And I don't know, like at this point, not just because of the Miami game, but because we've seen it like genuinely consistently over the last couple of years, and especially this year, that building over a run like that used to just like 70% Heat fans. If we're going back like 5-6 years ago, they go on that run, they're up 15-0, whatever. I think Tyler Hero might have been at the free throw line and there's like, let's go Heat chants like starting. And within a handful of seconds, Magic fans were just able to drown all of that out. And that it didn't used to be that way. Like you and I have been there, a couple of years ago, opening night against the Knicks, most miserable game either one of us had ever been at.
Yeah.
4 or 5 minutes into this game, I thought that this game was going to have a chance to like overtake that. But I've just been so proud of Magic fans, the way they've been showing up to Kia the last few years, but this year especially. And when the Magic start to get back into that game and they're down like 7, you already felt the energy in the building changing. Yep. And as I think the Magic might have cut the lead to 2, and Anthony Black shoots that corner 3. Like, dude, you remember when Cole hit that 3 against Cleveland in, I think it was game 3 a couple of years ago, like to end the quarter, and the whole place just goes crazy. Like, it felt like we were getting ready to get to that type of level, like where the roof just comes off the building. But eventually when Wendell hits the jumper to retake the lead, and then especially late in the game, I think there's like 9-8 minutes to go in the fourth, something like that. Goga comes up, I think either with a rebound, and he's like falling over. There's 3 or 4 Heat guys around him, kicks it out to Desmond Bane, who pulls up, and you just knew that it was going in. Yeah. And he cashes it. The whole building goes crazy. And there's a Heat fan like 3 or 4 rows in front of me wearing a Tyler Hero jersey. He wasn't even really cheering for the Heat, by the way. He would just get really excited whenever Tyler Hero scored, which like as a grown man, to me, that's just like very, very weird that not only are you rooting for this like weird, phony, fake team, but you're rooting for like this one specific guy on the team. It's always kind of weird to me. Yeah. But he's like taking a selfie, and I ducked down to get in the shot, and I'm just waving goodbye, because I knew amazing. The game was over at that point. It wasn't over, but I knew in short order our boys were going to find a way to make it happen. So it was just such a fantastic game to be at. Again, being there with my daughter, she had a great time, and then just the level of negativity that I was at 5 minutes into that game, and our group chat was in, by the way, and then just seeing that go all the other way and getting that Desmond Bane performance, like just freaking awesome.
It was really, really awesome, really special. And we mentioned this in our conversation with Jeff here in a second, but obviously this is big for the Cup. It's big for the morale. It's big for all. It's also big for the standings, though, right? Like Miami is a team that right now you're sitting there in the same conversation with in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, a long way to go, But this now gives you the head-to-head win, right? You're 3-0 against the Heat. You only have 2 games left now. Both games are in Miami, but it doesn't really matter as far as head-to-head goes what happens in those games because you've now won the season series. And so all those things combined, I mean, we mentioned it earlier, it turned around with the defense, though. Like, I was so impressed with how the defense came around eventually, right? Obviously, the beginning was miserable. Not only could we not score, but they did whatever they wanted offensively. But I was super, super happy with our defense in the last 3 quarters, and again, it goes back to just the fact that is who we are. Even though we're pushing the pace more this year, even though we added Desmond Bane who can, knock down 6 threes, we're still a defensive team, and teams, if we play the way we're supposed to play, we're going to be in games every single night. And so the fact that is what turned it around first, then Desmond Bane came into form in the second half to put it away. It was just really, really special. And it's one of those games that I think we can hopefully look back on April, May, June, whenever the season ends, as one of the really special nights of the season. At least that's how it felt for me.
And according to Desmond Bane in his post-game interview, it started with Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah.
Like Jonathan Isaac getting in guys' ears and kind of being the motivator off the bench and coming into the game and kind of shifting the game with his defense. He plays 12 minutes. He's a plus 13 in this one. Did just want to give some other guys like a shout out. Paolo, 5 of 13 from the floor. Really rough start. It felt like, quarters 2 through 4 for Paolo. He started to kind of get back to the guy. Like, I mean, he kind of had the dagger, like the jumper. Yeah. Was it over Norm Powell or Tyler Hero? One of those guys like from the right wing with a few minutes to go that really put the game out of reach. But he finishes with 18.7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block. He's coming along. Very, like, obviously doesn't fully like trust his body just yet. Like, you just tell him the way that he's moving. Sooner rather than later, we want to see that turn around. But luckily in this one, like, Desmond Bane is just so good that it didn't matter. And the numbers will tell you that Paolo was really bad in this game. He was really bad to start the game. There was also like a few possessions where he was just getting absolutely hacked, not getting calls. The refs, dude, we just have to. I'm not talking about the free throws. I'm talking about missing a blatant kickball on one end. Yeah. And then Anthony Black basically gets a deflection with his hand on the other a few minutes later, and they called that a kickball. Just one example of this was one of the. It was, you're watching the game and you're genuinely thinking, like, what are these guys seeing? Because they're not seeing what's happening on the floor, and they've got a front row seat, and I'm sitting 15 rows back, and it's like, dude, that guy clearly just got raked across the arm. And for us it's a play on, but you tap a guy's wrist on the other end, and those guys were shooting free throws. So I could go on and on about that. But Wendell was awesome. 14 points, 10 rebounds, 2 of 3 from behind the arc. Like, right now, when Dell pulls up, like, you can almost immediately tell whether or not it's going in. And like the corner threes that he had were huge. Anthony Black is another guy who's like the box score doesn't jump out at you that he had like a phenomenal game. But I think you touched about it in this. You touched on it in the post game live, like his defensive impact on both Tyler Hero, Norm Powell. Thought he was really good. Jalen Suggs. 20.7 of 13, 3 of 8 from deep, 3 of 4 at the free throw line, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. Did have 4 turnovers in this one, but is so clearly not 100%. Like, that he might be 60, 70%. It really does seem like it's the groin. I know we talked about that at the end of Sunday's game, against the Knicks. Like, he comes out, like, kind of hobbled the last few minutes. Was it like the first 6-7 minutes of this game, the Magic get a turnover, 6-7. He tries to take off from half court with the ball and just so clearly doesn't have the explosiveness. I think he still ended up getting the layup, but all of a sudden, a few minutes later, I'm seeing more like wrap and like hot bags on him than I've ever seen on any player in my life. Yeah. Almost his entire like lower half of his body was wrapped up. I thought there's no way he comes back in the game. And he ends up playing 31 minutes in this one. The definition of a dog, the definition of a warrior. And even though I'm like, this guy can barely move around, he's still finding ways to make plays. And like the 3 threes that he hit in this game, like he had, I think, a couple in the first half that when the Heat were, getting off to the hot start, he helped the Magic kind of claw back in the game and not let Miami run away with it. So man, anybody that has a bad thing to say about Jalen Suggs, he's not always a perfect player. Don't get me wrong. There are certain things that frustrate you and I sometimes, but nobody gives more to this team and this organization than Jalen Suggs, man.
Honestly, genuinely, there are some times in that game where I almost was like, is he going to like make it, whatever the problem is he going to make it worse by playing in this game? Because there were moments like you said, that initial steal where, it looked like he re-aggravated it or whatever. When that happened and he went out, you're like, okay, either his night's done but when he came back, he was still giving 100%, and then he'd, hold it, and then he'd limp or whatever, and you're just like, as great as it was, and again, he's a dog, like he's a psycho in the best way possible. I hope he's going to be okay for, the long term of the season. At some point we do have to value that, but given the stakes, given what was, on the line, all the things we've already talked about, Jalen's like, if I'm going to be out there, I'm not going to give anything less than 150%. You may not get 200% like you usually do, but you're going to get 150%. And that's what he did. And again, not surprised at all. That's who he is.
What I want to know though is like, if it's anybody else on this team, they're not playing.
Yeah, probably right.
Like if it's anybody else on this team, they're at least on the injury report. Like how is he getting away with not even being on the injury report?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of baffling because like something's going on. Maybe he's just a great actor. Like I don't know what's going on, because that was the thing where like we're gonna at least see him on the injury report, ahead of Tuesday's game, and then he wasn't. We're like, okay, he must be fine because he said he was fine after the game, and then 6 minutes in, you're like, well, he's obviously not fine.
Yeah.
I just I think it's a lot of like the football mentality of like, if I can play, I'm going to play and nobody's going to stop me from playing. And Jalen he was awesome. Like,
yeah,
injury aside, like I'm not trying to like qualify this. Oh, he was really good for being hurt. Like, no, even fully healthy, he was really good in this one.
Yeah.
I thought we got good minutes out of Tristan and Goga Batadze as well. Need Tristan to keep knocking down shots. He had a couple of big threes in this one, but just doesn't seem to have like the same level of confidence that he had a few weeks ago. And then, Goga, 2 blocks in this one, 6 rebounds, 7 points, really good Goga minutes as well. And we got a Mo Wagner haircut ahead of this one. New look for Mo. I think he looks good, but I'm going to miss the locks.
Well, some people are speculating that that's the sign he's coming back soon. It's
Why
not
would
uncommon.
You get a haircut if you weren't about to come back?
Well, that's the thing. It's not uncommon for guys, before big games or, before, whatever, to get a little, fresh cut. And so, I mean, look, could that be true? Who knows? But is it anything? I don't know, but it might be something.
Well, we thought that like there was an issue with haircuts on this team because we saw like Markelle get a haircut, not look the same. Cole Anthony get a haircut, not look the same. But I think Jet has kind of, redeemed that a little bit because we were like, okay, like Jet cut his hair, he lost his aura, whatever. Jet's been way better this year. So, hopefully that's not an issue with Mo Wagner. Okay, before we get into our conversation with Jeff Turner, let's go ahead and run through the state of the Magic. So at 15-10 at the time of this recording, which right now the only teams that are playing are Eastern or Western Conference teams. And Kevin, shocker, it looks like the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be moving on. They are up 30 in the third quarter against the Phoenix Suns. So they will play the winner of the Spurs and the Lakers. But the Magic 15-10, they are in 4th in the Eastern Conference, 4.5 games back of the Detroit Pistons, 2.5 games back of the Knicks, which the semifinal does count towards your regular season record.
That's right.
If I remember correctly. The final does not, but the Magic have a chance to get a full game on the Knicks coming up here on Saturday. We are a half game back of the Boston Celtics, a half game up on the Raptors, 1 game up on the 76ers, Cavs, Heat, and Hawks. All of those teams right now are tied there in the Eastern Conference. And we are 5 games up on the Milwaukee Bucks. Taking a look at the advanced analytics, right now the Magic are 11th in offensive rating with an offensive rating of 115.7. If you're not familiar with offensive rating, what that means is that per 100 possessions played, the Magic are scoring 115.7 points. And the Magic's defensive rating is 5th in the NBA at 111.5. So that means per 100 possessions played, their opponents are scoring 111.5 points. And in terms of overall net rating, the Magic are 8th with a positive net rating of 4.2. So that means per 100 possessions, the Magic are outscoring their opponents by 4.2 points. Let's take a look at the last 15 games on the season. The Magic are 10th in offensive rating and 3rd in defensive rating, 5th in net rating. So the last 15 games, in terms of efficiency, the Magic have been the 5th best team in the NBA. We like that. We want to see that continue. Taking a look at the injury report, Mo Wagner out, the left knee ACL injury recovery, all that's still going on. Franz Wagner, the left high ankle sprain. We still don't have a timetable for that, even though the Shams report was 2 to 4 weeks. You just can't really hold the Magic to that. Jalen Suggs, I guess, not on the injury report right now. And other than that, I think the injury report is clean, mostly, other than the Wagner brothers.
Yeah, absolutely, which is a relief. We'll see, obviously, going into Saturday if anything changes, with regards to Jalen or whatever. There's a lot of time between now and then, but by all accounts, I mean, if he played Tuesday and he gets 3 full days of rest, I would guess he's going to play Saturday in a game that has even bigger stakes, but we'll see. The Six Man Show is brought to you by the Posit Group, your home team on and off the court. They are not just the real estate partners of us here at the Six Man Show, but also the real estate partners for the Orlando Magic. This season, Ken and his team are the best at what they do, and I know Ken was enjoying Tuesday night. I saw him post from his social media accounts that he was at the game Tuesday night, having a great time celebrating the Magic win. And you can celebrate if you buy or sell your home with the Posit Group. And you can see why they have over 1,700 5-star reviews. They are the best of the best in Central Florida when it comes to the real estate world. And so if you want to buy a home, finding the best home that's right for you and your family, or you want to sell your home, trying to get the most amount of money you can for it, you want to go to the Posit Group. Go to Posit.com. That's POZEK.com to find out more about what they do and to get in contact with them. Big shout out to Ken and his entire team for sponsoring the show.
Now, listen, I know a lot of you have heard us talk about Jam Hot Chicken for years now, and you think we're overhyping it. You've planned to go, but you just haven't quite made the time to get over there to either to their Winter Garden or Winter Park locations. And you just think maybe these guys are just hyping it up a little bit too much. I promise you we're not. Every person that goes to Jam that listens to our show, the first time they go, we always get a message that says, hey, I thought you guys were overhyping it. I wasn't sure how good it was going to be. And maybe you guys aren't hyping it enough. So we are talking about Jam Hot Chicken. They are proudly serving the city beautiful, bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park, and now in their new location at the Plant Street Market in Winter Garden. Jam Hot Chicken is a Nashville and LA inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated in Orlando. In Winter Park, they're at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. And again, in Winter Garden, they're located in the Plant Street Market. Be sure to follow them at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media. I was just there on Tuesday. Their new Winter Garden location is really, really cool. Stopped there with my daughter. Had the 6-man wrap, which is like their mild tender with like slaw and ranch dressing in a wrap. Maybe it's a little more healthy option, maybe you could call it, but it's just as delicious. My daughter had the chicken tenders. One of the chicken tenders was literally as big as her head. The portions, they don't cheap you on those as well. The food is fantastic. Go to jamhotchickenfl.com. You can find their menu. Order online. When you order online, you can use code 6MAN for 10% off your meal. Or if you're in person when you get to checkout, let them know that, hey, I have this code 6MAN, and they'll give you 10% off every single meal that you have. If you don't want to leave the house, you want to get it delivered to your door, download the Uber Eats app. If you're local, they're available there as well. So a big shout out to Jam Hot Chicken for supporting the show. They're huge Magic fans. And now let's go ahead and get back to the episode. All right, Magic fans, we are now joined by a very special guest. We've kind of made this an installment as we pass each kind of quarter of the season. We're a little bit late this time around. We're 25 games in now, but after last night's win, as we record this Wednesday night, last night's win over the Miami Heat in the NBA Cup, really no better time to bring in tonight's guest, Jeff Turner, Orlando Magic legend. JT, how are you doing? And how about that game last night, huh?
I am doing great. I don't know if you guys, when we beat Detroit, to clinch the number one spot and everything. We kind of knew what the scenarios were, and we got the news kind of the way it was all going to play out in the post game. And when Kendra and I presented, I don't know if you saw, but I was like, yes, this is exactly what we want. It just doesn't it just make it sweeter? Like we're going to to Vegas for the Final Four of this cup by beating the Miami Heat. See, this is what I've been trying to tell you guys. And this is what I'm trying to tell all the Magic fans is it tastes a little better, doesn't it? Like that's why I want a playoff matchup. 5-0 right now, count the preseason against the Heat. Doesn't get any better than this.
I know it. It's pretty special. And yeah, you take the preseason, take the regular season, 5 in a row against Miami, which is amazing. And then you add, like you said, a little extra spice to it that it was the cup.
Yeah.
And of course, it was kind of strange going into it because now that you have this cup game, you're going to play them 5 total times in the regular season.
Yeah.
And since you're 3-0, you already own that tiebreaker. So no matter how those games go in Miami later this season, you own the tiebreaker, which is awesome. I wanted to ask you, how was that experience last night watching the game courtside instead of calling the game? Are you and David like under the table, like fist pumping when those Desmond Bane threes are going in? Are you whispering Kapaya or anything like that? Or what's that experience like?
There's definitely, what's funny is, and I think I've said this to you guys before, like David and I doing a game, it's just like two friends just sitting talking about a game, right? So basically that's all we were doing sitting courtside. We were just having a running conversation about, the game. It's a little different. It's a little bit more relaxed. I think, you don't have all the other stuff going on, sponsors and all the commercials and things you got again. So you can be more of a fan. So, maybe there was a little more fist pumping and things like that. But, just how great, like, I mean, the week, the last 3 games, you beat Miami, right? And then you go to New York and you think you've lost Franz Wagner, potentially, could be out for the season or, indefinitely. And then you get the good news, right? That it's only a high ankle sprain and he's not lost for the season. And then you follow that up a night later with a terrific performance from Desmond Bane and the rest of the guys to knock out the Heat. It's just things are looking pretty good for the Magic right now.
I wanted to ask, like, there's been a lot of talk about like the Desmond Bane, trade, like, the overpay. At this point, did Memphis overpay?
Yeah, it's David. I think David said last night. He said, "How many of those first-round picks helped us tonight? Or did Desmond Bane help us tonight?" And it's so right. And I get it. And we've been in this rebuild mode, and those picks are so valuable when you're in that, right? But when the value of the pick you're able to go out and get a guy like this. Let me ask you guys, how perfect a fit is Desmond Bane for this team? I mean, his grittiness, his toughness, just all the things that he can do that were needed by this Orlando Magic team. We exchange value for value. And I just, I kind of knew this was the way it would play out. I felt like this was the way that it would play out. You never know, right, for sure. But I think, Memphis is, down the line, that may pay off for them, right? But for now, I think it's just a great fit for us.
Sticking in the conversation of Desmond Bane, I want to go back to the night that seemingly on paper, at least so far, may have been the one that has turned his season around. Obviously didn't get off to the best start necessarily, but the Portland game winner, right? Obviously, once again, you had a great view of that one. Talk us through that night from your perspective and how special and big of a moment that was for Desmond and for the whole team, really.
For the whole team, right? Like that's, David likes to say his famous saying is, that's a jump start. That could jump start us. And I think it did. Obviously for Desmond, it was a jump start. I mean, it's funny, the start of the season. Desmond was the first guy to say, this isn't going to go perfect. We're still learning each other. I'm still learning the system, and we could have a rough start. He said that in camp, and just prophetic, I guess. It's just you start adding guys in, and I'm sure you guys have said this, and I've said it on broadcast many times. We had Franz, Paolo, and Jalen for all of less than 100 minutes together last year. So really, it's not just working Desmond Bain into the mix. It's all four of those guys, playing alongside of each other for extended minutes. And so, I that night, against Portland, there's so much excitement. You got the great move by Paolo, to down the lane to tie the game. I think he tied it right, and then missed the free throw, and then have a chance, coming back after that great lob that Portland scored on, to have a chance to get a shot, and for Desmond, to knock that down after he had been struggling. I think that kind of gave him a lot of confidence. It was kind of a "I belong here" moment. This is what I do, and so that was it was a jump starter, no doubt.
Speaking about Desmond Bain, Jeff, you alluded to it a little bit, like the grit and the edge that he brings. Maybe I didn't watch enough Memphis the last couple of years, but like bouncing balls off of people's heads and off the back of another guy. Like, what do you make of that kind of stuff? Because for us, we've found it pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, I'm like with you. I mean, you try to keep up with the NBA, but like, listen, it's hard to keep up with the teams in the West, right? And you only saw Memphis twice a year. So you didn't really see all of it. I'm hearing that there are more episodes coming to light by virtue of the internet and everything now. But yeah, it's it's funny. It gets you in a place where you're not really sure how to call it. Like the New York thing on. The first thing is like, oh, what a great play. It's like he's going out of bounds and then he throws it off, and then you watch the replay, and well, he wasn't going out. He really wasn't going out of bounds too bad. But and then it's like then David was like, well, if you throw it, and he catches it. I said, but David, if he catches it, he's out of bounds. You could have just tossed it to him and got the same effect. And so there was when they were ruling on it, I think I went through the whole, well, on the marginally, that's probably, marginally excessive or, but I mean, it's like, but it's him, I mean, he paid for it, obviously, but, you just, every good team that I've ever, been on, associated with, watched, there's always a guy, right, that's just, he just gets under your skin. He's just, he's just on the edge a little bit, willing to make big plays or play fiery and everything. We really have a couple right now with Jalen Suggs, and then don't forget Mo Wagner's coming back. So those three guys, I would imagine, are going to be instigating a whole lot more controversy or just getting under the skin, let's say, of the opponents as we move forward, and that's not always a bad thing.
Yeah, I get the feeling that guys like that would have done pretty well in your era. Those 80s, 90s era, with a lot of guys that they threw some basketballs off of each other back in those days, which that's
but you didn't get a $35,000 fine. You just got maybe a technical and then knock it off, or let's just play ball.
That's
also maybe a knuckle sandwich back in the day.
Well, back in the day, players the NBA didn't have to fine too much because players kind of clean things up for themselves. If you're going to throw a ball off a guy, off his head or his, back and everything, then, you accept the consequences of what's coming or be ready for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've talked obviously a lot, and rightfully so, about Desmond Bain. I want to ask you about a couple of other new guys, the rookies, Jet and Noah, what we've seen from them through 25 games. What have been your thoughts about both of those guys so far?
Yeah,
Sorry, not Jet.
Jace.
Jace, I mean. Sorry, Jace. Yeah.
Yep. Jace. No, both of those guys. It's funny. Jace is just one of those guys. You can tell he does a lot of little things, and I try to point him out when he gets in the game. Like you can tell he's so well coached, right? Whether it's the Izzo thing or his dad or whatever. But like the screens, he'll set up but when he sets a screen, he gets a guy. I mean, he puts his body on him. The boxing out, this little things that he does. And he's fiery. He's competitive. He's got a real nice winning spirit. Noah is a guy that, and I tell you what, the more I watch him, I just think he's got a chance to be really, really important for this team. He really has a nice knack, a nice feel for the game. You look at him with that big body, but he moves really well. He's got great instincts. He's always around the ball. And I just, when he's gotten a chance, he's come in and done some good things. So yeah, I'm really, I really think both of those guys have a chance. It's just, you think about it, when we get healthy, assuming we do, it's just, it's a good problem for most, but, tough for those guys because there's just not a lot of minutes to go around right now. I know Jamal would like to get probably, you kind of see it. He'd like to get to a 9-man rotation. That kind of works. So, that means, 4 or 5 guys aren't playing extended minutes. But I think both of those guys, their futures are really bright. And you brought up Jet, so I'm gonna go there too. I really like what Jet's doing. There was in his third season, and really, I think the work that he put in the off season, as far as his ability to put it on the floor. Here's a guy who is worked relentlessly with the coaches to try to improve his defense. That was a problem when he would get into the games. Teams would, they target him, they'd come after him, put him in pick and rolls, and try to get him on the matchup. But he's starting to hold his own a little bit, and that Boston game up there, just, him getting a chance and playing with such great confidence, that those times as a former player watching a young guy like that, I just love to see when that happens. So kudos to all 3 of those guys.
So Jeff, we're 25 games in now, 15-10. Like thinking back to, the middle of October before the season started, are we record-wise about where you thought we would be? Are we a little bit behind, a little bit ahead? And, the early struggles, what do you think has changed since then and kind of what's working for the team now?
Yeah, nobody expected us to start 1-4, right? I think that was a shock to everybody. But like when the schedule came out and you start looking at it and the way it was set up and the teams you'd be playing, you realize that this was tough. I think somebody, it was Dante or David, told me that we're like right now the early season schedule, top 5, I guess, right, toughest schedules, and you could kind of see that by looking at the way it's the game set up. So I think where we are is probably not a bad place. I mean, you're still, you're in the top half. I know we fluctuate going from 5 to 6, 4, 5, and 6 right now in the rankings. I don't know where we are today. Haven't looked at it, but I think it's been good. And again, I think so. To your point about what's changed since October. I really think this team and the coaching staff really they spent so much time in preseason, kind of adapting to a new offensive style, how they wanted to play a little bit, and working on that with so little practice time, to be honest, preparation time. I think just pounding, the last couple of years, Jamal, the camp has been about all of the basics, defensive basics, covering all that, knowing that we're going to be a defensive team. And I think over the last, particularly in November and then on here in December, I think we've kind of gotten back, right, to that identity of, forcing turnovers, getting out and converting off of those. Rebounding the basketball a lot better, particularly on the defensive end, limiting teams to one shot. All the things we did well last year, I think we're kind of getting back to that. And I think that, defensive identity coupled with, scoring more points, which is, what's been all about, is everybody's doing, playing a little more possession game, higher possession game. I think that's been the big difference that we've seen since the start.
I think this season has been yet another reminder for Magic fans, and I guess maybe every NBA fan. Like, it's a long season, and so
Yes.
as tough as those first couple weeks were, where some people were, sky is falling type things. Here we are, a little over a quarter of the season in, and we're 15-10, fourth seed right now in the
Yeah.
Eastern Conference, and so things can turn around really, really fast. And I think this has been obviously a good reminder about that. I wanted to ask you though. This is season 3 of the NBA Cup, and Magic obviously, doing very well. How do you like the Cup? Has this grown on you? And then ultimately, how do you think the Magic will fare? With the remainder of the Cup schedule. Obviously, New York on Saturday, and then if they were to win that, how far do you think this team could go in the Cup?
I think they could do it. I mean, I think they can win it. I mean, obviously, I think OKC being in this thing presents a problem, but we'll see how that plays out. It's funny, Kevin. I was a skeptic, at the beginning. I just, trying to figure out how in, November, so early in the season, and here in the first week of December, middle of December, are you going to be able to pull this off? But I got to tell you, I've been pleasantly surprised, and I'm surprised. I guess I'm not really surprised, but I am surprised. I don't know if I've said it right, but like how the players have bought in. It's like at least from watching the games, like you watch those two teams last night, they both wanted to go to Vegas, right? I mean, you could tell the way Miami started, the way they were up and the bench was going, the whole deal, that it was important to them. I know, from being around the guys, the Magic guys, that this getting to Vegas, and having a chance to win this thing was important to them. I guess I shouldn't be surprised with the amount of money involved because, I was telling somebody last night, it doesn't matter how much it is when money's on the line for a competitive athlete. It just makes it, a little bit more sweeter, and when you're talking the dollars that the commissioners put up, for this, particular event for this cup. That's pretty significant. Heck, Des even said, he's got a $35,000 hole he's got to dig himself out of. So I'm sure the missus was very happy with the way he played last night after giving up 35.
Yeah, I think we were skeptical as well. I think part of it is like you've seen the tinkering that's gone on with All-Star Weekend, over the past, half decade at least. It feels like, and nothing has really seemed to have stuck or worked. And it was a little bit of that with the NBA Cup of like, okay, is this just going to be another gimmick that, we try out, doesn't really work? I do think part of at least Magic fans, like the buy-in has been that the Magic have won a lot of their NBA Cup games. So, it makes it exciting. But you talk about the Magic having a chance to advance and, even potentially, win the Cup. I don't remember exactly where like your level of expectations were like heading into the season. I remember you kind of feeling like all outcomes were possible with the amount of talent that's on this team.
Yeah.
Where are you now that we've had, 25 games of like living with this team? Like, what do you think they can achieve this year?
Well, I think they can achieve a lot. Obviously health is always a big part of it, right? We always have to, in the NBA in this day and age, we have to put that one out there first, right? You have to be healthy. But again, I go back to the schedule that we played. I mean, we're 2-1 against the Knicks already, right? Miami is a playoff team. We've beaten them 3 times. We've gone up and won at Detroit, the number one team. I mean, if you start looking at how you compete, we obviously haven't seen Toronto or Cleveland yet. But you start looking at how you stack up with the people in the Eastern Conference, and you feel like, well, we can play with all of those guys, and we've proven that, we can beat them. It just, it kind of makes you think, well, maybe, sky's the limit. When people start talking about, can you play for the Eastern Conference title, in the finals. I've heard people say this, Knicks Magic here in the Cup semis could be a preview. Well, why couldn't it be? So I guess my expectations based on watching them really haven't changed. I kind of think I told you guys I felt like, given all those factors that we should be or could be a top 4 team in the East. So, again, there's a lot of factors that play into it, but I just like the makeup of the team right now and the way they're leaning into that defensive identity. Is that, man, those first 5 games, it just felt like, who are these guys? It wasn't just the offense was struggling because we were scoring points. We just couldn't stop anybody. So, that's now you just feel like, I don't know about you guys, but we're sitting there last night and it's 15-0. Jamal calls timeout, and you're thinking, at least I am. I was like, okay, well, usually after Jamal calls that first timeout, we've gotten into little ruts. We make a little bit of a run, and we played them even through the rest of the quarter, and then came out in the second and really took control of the game. So this team is. Just got to really, what is it the guys like to say? They have a dog mentality. They just keep, they just keep barking. They just keep coming. So, it's fun to watch.
One more before we let you go, JT. To your point, the Magic have the easiest remaining schedule in the Eastern Conference the rest of the way. So, that kind of, confirms what we've thought. The beginning's been really tough, but the rest of the way, as far as the Eastern Conference goes, the Magic have the best remaining schedule. I wanted to ask you, as we tend to meet with you on these quarter marks, what are some things you're looking for in the next quarter, right? What are some things that maybe, as well as the Magic have been playing, maybe there are some things you'd like to see them improve? Maybe it's, when guys start coming back from injuries, you want to see how they progress and get into the full. What are some things you're looking for in these next 20 to 25 games or so?
Yeah, I think the big thing, Kevin, for me is like, it's always about, we've had a pretty good stretch, but it's not always, I guess the big thing to be a championship team, there has to be a level of consistency. I think we're getting there, but we got to get away from, some of those, just games where it's just not hit there. The San Antonio game, right? Like, there's, we weren't there for the, beginning of the game. We just kind of let them hang around. And not that San Antonio is not a good team, but the coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning from the game the night before and everything, just kind of let them off the hook. We just it just felt like an emotional letdown. I think even the players, Jalen even said that, we, in our minds, we thought, oh, it's a back-to-back. They're not going to have any energy, I think that the good teams, you just find, and Mose talks about, we got to worry about ourselves, just take care of ourselves, and do that. So I think that's a big thing. I'm really looking for, so the second quarter of the season is going to take us through the trip to Germany, correct? I think. And so I know Mo Wagner was targeting time, come back before then. And obviously, we'd love to see Franz back before then. I'm sure everybody, all the German fans would love to see that. So again, how do, you're working Franz back in and then bringing Mo in, what is that process going to look like? I think those are the two big things for me, as we head towards the All-Star break.
Yeah, I think we'd probably both agree with that. We've talked that as good as this team is, like we still have to remember, like so many of these guys are not even 25 years old yet. There's still like a level of maturity in just in terms of like being a pro that they'll get to, and I think the consistency will come along with that. And another exciting thing is, like, as good as this team has been, you're still missing so many key parts, and like I don't think we've seen this team anywhere near their best yet, which is kind of a scary thought. We've seen them, like the Philadelphia game, right? Like as good as they were, it still feels like there might be like one or maybe even two more levels that this team can get to. So all of that is really exciting. And Jeff, we always appreciate you taking the time. It's such a joy to hear you and the entire, FanDuel crew each and every night, but always a treat when we can get you on here and pick your brain a little bit. So we appreciate the time. And after this cup, we look forward to getting you guys back on the call. Jeff, thanks for taking the time.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Man, Kevin, it is always so good to talk to Jeff Turner. Like, nobody does quite as good a job of like encapsulating the Orlando-Miami like rivalry. And outside of you and I don't know that there's anybody that enjoys the Magic beating the Heat more than Jeff Turner. So appreciate him taking the time.
Yeah. I love that he takes it seriously. I mean, some people roll their eyes at it, and JT doesn't. He's not afraid to embrace it, and he wants more of it. And so he's got his fill this season, combined between preseason and regular season. We're going to see the Heat 7 times this year, which is pretty crazy. And then who knows what could happen in the playoffs. But yeah, it's obviously always great to talk with him and get his insights, get his wisdom. It's a good reminder. Like, while Jeff Turner is a media personality these days, if you don't know, that was an NBA baller once upon a time. And so maybe you're a younger person, you're not familiar with his game. The guy had, by all standards across the NBA, had a very successful career, was around for a long time. And so to get his actual basketball, perspective from things, but also just his human perspective, he's a great guy. And so always appreciate getting him on the show. It's truly an honor and a privilege, and glad to get to talk to him again.
There's a non-zero chance that preseason, regular season, playoffs included that the Magic play the Heat 14 times this year.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Just disgusting.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's really, really,
really
crazy.
Is.
Yeah.
Well, as always, really appreciate Jeff Turner taking the time. Kev, let's talk a little preview this matchup between the Magic and the Knicks right now. 2-1, the Magic leading the season series so far with a win in Orlando, a win in MSG, and then a loss in MSG coming, Sunday afternoon of this past weekend here. Team looks a little bit different now. Obviously, no Franz Wagner ahead of this matchup. We don't really know. I mean, I don't think Mo Wagner is going to be back for this one. Hoping and optimistic that Jalen Suggs is going to be fine and is ready to go. But Desmond Bane, Paolo Banchero, this feels different than in years past. Like, if one of those two guys, were out, having a guy who is 100% capable of being the best guy on the floor of two really good basketball teams and carrying you to a victory in Desmond Bane, it just feels way different than it would have in years past. Like, no matter who we're playing, it still feels like we have enough to get the win. Where in years past, if we didn't have Franz, we didn't have Paolo, we were going into a game like this, and you're like, I know we're going to win some of these games, but for the most part, you kind of just felt resigned to the fact that the Magic would probably lose. But it just feels way different with this team. So what are your thoughts so far about how these two teams have played each other this year? And what kind of odds do you give the Magic in pulling this one out on Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, of the 3 games, 2 of them have been at MSG, which leans in the Knicks' favor. We have not had a single matchup, even though we've already played 3 times this season. Not a single one where both teams are healthy, and so that factor goes out the window. There's no really good sample size to pull from. Because Saturday, obviously, Franz is going to be out. Shamet's still out, obviously, for the Knicks, and I think Deuce McBride is up in the air as well. And so those are obviously big losses for them. Karl Anthony Towns didn't play on Sunday, but you assume he'll be back for Saturday. So all those things combined, it's hard to pull from a game and go, this is what we can expect. But what you can expect is I think it's going to be physical. I think, obviously the last time out, these two teams, one guy threw a basketball at another. And so maybe There's a little bit of chippiness still there, but New York's not going to get the MSG atmosphere. Orlando's not going to get the Kia Center atmosphere. It's a neutral site, so that's always a little bit awkward. And so for the actual game, though, I mean, it once again for me is going to come down to Desmond Bane. If Desmond Bane can have a good game, and by good I mean in order to win this game, unless Paolo goes nuclear, which is very possible, the Magic get 3 full days of rest here. Unless Paolo goes nuclear, I think Desmond Bane's going to have to score 25 for you to have a chance. In this one, I think
I think you need 25 from each guy.
It's very possible. Yeah, it's very, very possible. So, but yeah, I expect a good game. And I think both teams are going to be up for it. This sounds dumb. Like, I just hope it's a good game, but I really do. I think this could be a really special night for both teams and really competitive. And that's about all you can ask for at this point. And look, if the Magic play their defense, they're going to be in games. That's what we know. They're going to be in games. So if they can be in games the last couple minutes, and then it's a coin flip, and we'll see what happens.
I'm pulling up some of the Knicks stats versus the Orlando Magic this year. Jalen Brunson is averaging 31.3 points per game on 47% from the floor, only 25% from deep, 80% at the free throw line, adding 2.7 rebounds, 8.7 assists per game. And as I look at this, Karl Anthony Towns in just 2 games missed the last one, 19.5 points per game, 41% from the floor, 30% from deep, 10 rebounds, 3.5 assists a game. For me, you can't like double Brunson, right? Like you've got to just throw Jalen and Dez and Anthony Black, and it would be Franz Wagner, and this one is probably mainly going to be those 3 guys, I would assume, on Brunson. If they can just, you're not going to stop him. If they can just slow him down a little bit one-on-one, you can't start to double and let these other guys get going. When the Knicks, I mean, they've been playing really good basketball all year, but when the offense was really humming at its highest capacity to start the year, it was when it was kind of by committee, right? Jalen Brunson wasn't the guy doing it all, but through 3 games against the Magic, he kind of has been doing everything for them when these 2 teams play. So I think that's going to be really important. Shocker, we need their best player to not play as good as he normally does. But like I genuinely think the Magic have a real chance to win this game. I think last I looked, the Knicks were favored by like 4 or 4.5.
Yeah.
It's a neutral site. Neutral is probably going to favor the bigger, market team.
Sure.
But I do know there are a lot of Magic fans that we've heard from that are either in Vegas or like might be in like the California, like Arizona area that are going to be making the trip. I know there's some, folks that we know from Central Florida that are going to be making the trip over as well. Yeah. So it's going to be, really important for them. And taking a look, we were talking about Desmond Bane here. No shocker, Franz Wagner has been the guy this year who's played the best against the Knicks. Even though he only played like a fraction of that 3rd game, he's still averaging 24 points on almost 60% from the floor and 50% from deep, with 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal against the Knicks this season. Desmond Bane is averaging 21.7. He's shooting 47% from the floor, 47% from deep, and 100% at the free throw line, adding 5 rebounds, 5.7 assists. And then Jalen Suggs, 19 points, 43.9% from the floor, only 23% from deep, adding 2.7 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and almost 2 stocks. So Paolo only played in the last 2, not really playing his full amount of minutes in either of those games. He went down in the first one and then was on the minutes restriction in the second one. So I don't think you can really look into those numbers too deeply. But especially Desmond Bane, Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, we're going to need all of those guys to show up in addition to Paolo Banchero. Like, if the Magic are going to have a chance in advancing, this kind of has to be the game where Paolo's like, yeah, I'm back.
Something I really wanted to ask you about. We haven't even talked about this. Franz goes out. Tuesday night, they Mosley rolls out the starting lineup and has Anthony Black in there instead of Tristan da Silva. While Paolo was out, Tristan slotted in for him and started alongside Franz and Bane and Jalen and Wendell. And so Tuesday night, they roll out Anthony Black. What are your thoughts on that? Number one. Number two, the initial reaction is the team went down 15-0 to the Miami Heat with that starting lineup. However, later in the game, that group did a great job. And so what are your thoughts about that starting five? And then do you think that's the same five that roll out on Saturday?
I think they do. And like, I think it kind of makes sense for each guy. Like the beginning of the year, Tristan da Silva was playing so well. It made sense to just kind of like slot him in there. And now Anthony Black has been playing so well. Kind of makes sense to slot him in there because maybe they give you like slightly different things offensively. Funny enough, though, as much as we call Tristan like the bronze Franz, Anthony Black kind of has been doing more of the Franz things as of late, more so than Tristan da Silva has been, right? Like cutting off the ball, getting the ball, making quick decisions, like getting to the rim, like that kind of stuff. The early returns Tuesday night were not great, but like you said, like we both credit Anthony Black with his defense and helping this team like get back in the game and eventually winning it. So if this is what Jamal Mosley's believing at in this point in the season, I don't think like those first 5 minutes against Miami should kind of scare him away from that. And Anthony Black, like, especially with Jalen maybe not being 100% in the starting lineup, maybe that had something to do with it. Like you have Norm Powell and Tyler Hero in that starting lineup. And this one, you are going to have Jalen Brunson. And we have seen Anthony Black like do a good job of kind of getting underneath Brunson's skin at times over the last couple of the seasons. So I'm fine with it. I don't have any issues with it at all.
Yeah, I'm there too. I do wonder if it is matchup based. I mean,
could be.
New York starting lineups has a very different size to it than Miami. If you think about Brunson going out there, but then Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. I do wonder if Tristan might start just because of that. But let's not pretend like Anthony Black's a small guy. Like 6'7". He's literally 6'7". I'm not just doing that. 6 feet 7 inches. Not that he can't go out there and handle OG or Mikal Bridges or whatever. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting and kind of surprised me. But I don't think it's a bad thing. And but yeah, I do wonder if it's matchup based and if we see something different on Saturday. But I trust Mose. I trust the whole staff. And we'll see how it goes.
And just really quickly, as we brought up, Jamal Mosley, like credit to him, the way that he kind of pushed the right buttons, pulled the right levers to help the Magic get back into that game. And like playing Desmond Bane with 4 fouls like early in second half, like that was Desmond had kind of started to get it going a little bit, but he gets the 4th foul and he's still in that game. I'm like, man, we are really playing with fire at this point. And almost immediately after that, Desmond starts to hit shots and go on that run. So shout out to Jamal Mosley for like really trusting Desmond Bane in that moment. And a shout out for Desmond Bane for repaying that trust with his best game and best half in a Magic uniform. It was really awesome. But yeah, man, I'm super fired up for Saturday's game against the Knicks. Again, watch party this Saturday. Tip-off is at 5:30. But watch party at Stadium Club at the Caribe Royale Resort in Orlando. So if you can make it, be there for sure. Going to be a great time, great food, great vibes. Come cheer on our boys, and hopefully they'll get a victory and be playing in Vegas again on Tuesday.
Yeah, 100%. It's a big one. Again, we joke about it being, the best opportunity the Magic have ever had to win the cup, all that kind of stuff. But joking aside, it's an opportunity to do something we've never done before. And just because it's only been around for 3 years doesn't take away from the fact that this is uncharted territory. This could be something new,
OKC's
something
up by
fun.
40, Kev.
Oh my gosh, whatever. Here's the thing.
41. I'm sorry. Yeah, 41 to be exact.
Make it to the final and beat the freaking Thunder. That's what I want to see. I think we can do it. I want to see us do it. But let's focus on New York first. One thing at a time. Let's beat them on Saturday.
Let's do it. All right. Again, a big thanks to Jeff Turner for taking the time hanging out with us for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!